Communism. Communism as a political system emerged from the ideas of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the 19th century, advocating for the abolition of private property and class distinctions. In practice, communism seeks to eliminate inequality by transferring ownership of all resources and means of production to the state. Imagine having 2 cows in a communist society. The government takes both cows, milks them, and distributes the milk equally to everyone, ensuring that no one is left without. Politically, communism typically establishes a single-party state, where the ruling party controls legislation, administration, and even social life. Citizens rarely have political freedom, as elections are controlled and dissent is suppressed in the name of unity and equality. Socially, communism ensures that basic needs like education, healthcare, and housing are provided, but personal ambition, entrepreneurship, and individual property rights are restricted. Historically, the Soviet Union implemented communism on a massive scale, creating collective farms and nationalizing industries. While this reduced wealth inequality, it also led to inefficiencies, shortages, and political repression. Modern examples include Cuba and North Korea, where the state maintains control over almost all aspects of life, demonstrating the tension between collective equality and individual freedom. 2. Fascism. Fascism is a highly authoritarian political system that prioritizes the state over the individual and often combines nationalism with militarism. It emerged in the early 20th century in Europe, with Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany serving as historical models. If you own 2 cows in a fascist state, the government may commandeer them to support national goals, leaving you with no choice in the matter. Fascist governments centralize power in a single leader or party, demanding absolute loyalty and suppressing any dissent through propaganda, secret police, and state control of education and media. Social life is highly regimented, with citizens expected to conform to the ideology of the state, which often glorifies the nation above personal rights. Economically, private property may exist, but businesses are tightly controlled and directed to serve state objectives, such as military buildup or infrastructure projects. Fascism thrives on the idea of a unified national identity, often scapegoating minority groups to maintain cohesion and obedience. Real-world examples include Nazi Germany, where the state directed industry and society toward war and expansion, and Mussolini's Italy, where the government controlled labor, media, and political life. Fascism illustrates how extreme centralization can mobilize a nation efficiently, but at the cost of individual freedoms, morality, and human rights. 3. Democracy. Democracy, one of the most widely practiced political systems today, places power in the hands of the people. Originating from ancient Athens, democracy allows citizens to participate in decision-making, either directly or through elected representatives. If you own 2 cows in a democracy, you and your neighbors could vote on what to do with them, sell the milk freely, donate it to the community, or start a cooperative business. Politically, democracies are characterized by free and fair elections, separation of powers, protection of civil liberties, and rule of law. Socially, democracy encourages participation, debate, and public accountability, fostering a culture of dialogue and responsibility. Economically, citizens can own property, start businesses, and engage in trade, while the government may regulate aspects of the market to prevent abuse or inequality. Real-world examples include the United States, India, and Canada, where governance relies on citizen engagement and institutional checks and balances. Democracy's strength lies in its adaptability, ability to protect individual rights, and capacity to integrate diverse viewpoints. However, it can also face challenges such as polarization, slow decision-making, and the influence of wealth or media in politics. 4. Republic is closely related to democracy, but emphasizes representation and law. Citizens elect officials to govern according to a constitution, often designed to limit government power and protect minority rights. In a republic, if you have 2 cows, you elect a representative who decides how best to use them, following laws and principles that protect the community. Politically, republics balance popular sovereignty with legal safeguards, ensuring that no single individual or group can dominate indefinitely. Socially, republics encourage civic responsibility, education, and active participation in political life. Economically, citizens enjoy freedom to own property and pursue business opportunities, while the state regulates essential sectors to maintain fairness and prevent monopolies. Historical examples include the United States and France, where constitutions and representative institutions prevent absolute rule and provide mechanisms for accountability. Republics emphasize structured governance, balancing majority rule with protection of individual and minority rights, ensuring stability while promoting citizen involvement. 5. Monarchy. Monarchy is one of the oldest forms of governance, where power is concentrated in a king, queen, or emperor, often inherited through family lineage. Absolute monarchs wield near total power, deciding laws, taxes, and the distribution of resources. If you have 2 cows under an absolute monarchy, the monarch may determine whether you keep them, sell the milk, or contribute it to the palace. Constitutional monarchies, however, limit royal authority, with elected parliaments or legal systems making key decisions. Politically, monarchies historically maintained social order through hierarchy, with nobles, clergy, and commoners having defined roles. Socially, allegiance to the monarch and loyalty to the state were central, while economic activity often depended on land ownership and feudal obligations. Modern examples include Saudi Arabia as an absolute monarchy and the United Kingdom as a constitutional monarchy, where the queen or king serves largely ceremonial roles. Monarchies illustrate how tradition, heredity, and central authority can structure society, providing stability while sometimes limiting personal freedoms. 6. Totalitarianism represents the extreme form of centralized control, where a single ruler or party governs all aspects of life, including politics, society, economy, education, and even private thought. If you have 2 cows under totalitarian rule, the state would not only decide what to do with the milk, but also who may consume it, how you may handle your property, and how you should think about it. Politically, totalitarian governments suppress dissent, eliminate opposition, and employ propaganda, surveillance, and fear to maintain control. Socially, citizens live under constant scrutiny, and conformity is enforced through indoctrination, censorship, and state-controlled media. Economically, the government directs resources and production, often prioritizing national goals, military expansion, or ideological objectives over individual needs. Historical examples include Stalin's Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, where leadership centralized authority to an extreme degree, shaping daily life, culture, and thought according to state ideology. Totalitarianism illustrates the consequences of absolute power, showing how politics can penetrate every layer of human existence, leaving little room for freedom, diversity, or independent thought. 7. Theocracy. Theocracy is a political system in which religious institutions or leaders hold ultimate authority, and civil law is closely tied to religious law. Historically, theocracies have existed in many civilizations, from ancient Egypt, where pharaohs were seen as gods, to modern-day Iran. In a theocracy, political, legal, and social life is governed according to divine principles or sacred texts. If you own 2 cows under theocracy, religious authorities might dictate whether you can sell the milk, use it for charity, or even consume it yourself, depending on religious laws. Politically, power is centralized in religious leaders who interpret divine law and enforce compliance, often leaving little room for dissent or secular governance. Socially, theocracy creates a society where morality and civic duties are intertwined, and personal freedoms may be restricted to ensure adherence to religious norms. Economically, trade, taxation, and business activities are often regulated to align with religious values, and certain industries may be forbidden entirely. Real-world examples include Iran, where clerics oversee both political and legal decisions based on Islamic law, and the Vatican, where the Pope exercises spiritual and political authority over the church state. Theocracy illustrates how intertwining religion and politics can unify society under shared beliefs, but may suppress diversity, dissent, and secular freedoms. 8. Oligarchy. Oligarchy is a political system in which a small group of people, usually defined by wealth, family lineage, military power, or corporate influence, holds the bulk of political authority. Unlike democracy, where decisions are made collectively, an oligarchy consolidates decision-making in the hands of a privileged few. If you have 2 cows in an oligarchy, only the elite, the wealthy merchants, powerful families, or military leaders would decide what happens to your cows, often using resources to benefit themselves rather than the wider population. Politically, oligarchies often maintain strict social hierarchies and restrict participation to preserve power within the group. Socially, ordinary citizens may experience limited rights, reduced social mobility, and restricted access to opportunities, while the elite enjoy privileges, influence, and wealth. Economically, oligarchies frequently consolidate wealth and business control, ensuring that trade, production, and finance remain concentrated in the hands of the powerful. Historical examples include Sparta, where a small number of citizens ruled the state, and in modern times, certain nations or corporations can function oligarchically when wealth or political influence dominates policymaking. Oligarchies reveal how concentrated power can maintain efficiency for the few, while systematically limiting freedom, equity, and participation for the majority, often creating long-term societal stratification. 9. Anarchy. Anarchy is a political state characterized by the absence of formal government, centralized authority, or codified laws. While often portrayed as chaotic, anarchy can also represent communities self-governing through voluntary agreements, cooperation, and informal rules. If you have 2 cows under anarchy, you are free to do whatever you want with them, but any disputes or conflicts must be resolved directly with neighbors, as there is no legal authority to enforce decisions. Politically, anarchy removes hierarchies and formal leadership, relying on consensus or mutual agreements for governance. Socially, it fosters autonomy, personal responsibility, and collective negotiation, but it can also create instability or vulnerability to internal or external threats. Economically, there are no standardized regulations, taxes, or state interventions, meaning trade, property, and production depend entirely on voluntary cooperation. Historical examples of anarchic societies include the anarchist communes during the Spanish Civil War, where communities organized agriculture, defense, and trade collectively without formal government oversight. Anarchy demonstrates both the potential for maximum freedom and the challenges of maintaining order, coordination, and security in the absence of centralized authority. 10. Tribal and clan-based systems are among the earliest forms of human governance and remain prevalent in many indigenous societies around the world. Leadership is typically vested in elders, chiefs, or councils, and decisions are made collectively or through consensus. If you have 2 cows in a tribal system, the clan council decides how to use or distribute the milk, often prioritizing the needs of the entire community over individual ownership. Politically, power is based on respect, age, wisdom, or hereditary roles, rather than formal elections or constitutions. Socially, tribal systems foster strong community cohesion, mutual support, and clearly defined roles for each member, ensuring survival and social stability. Economically, resources are shared, and cooperative labor is common, with trade occurring between neighboring tribes for goods and services. Examples include Native American tribes in North America and African clans, where governance revolves around communal norms and traditions. Tribal systems illustrate how political order can emerge organically through shared values, collective responsibility, and social bonds, emphasizing the community rather than the individual in both decision-making and resource allocation.